Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Desmus, and I'm here showing you the dungeon Skyreach on the Warlords of Draenor beta. Now, as you can see, when you zone into the instance, you will be flying in on these giant ravens, which is pretty cool. It gives you a very nice view of the entire instance, and a nice view of down below for the zone spires of Iraq. Now, the first mob you'll be facing is the Soaring Blade. These don't do much, they just throw blades around. They do a little bit of damage, not much. And the first fight's fairly simple, just nuke them down and move on. Okay, now this next trash ball has a fairly painful mob called the Blade Feather. Now what they will do is they will randomly just charge at a random player for a moderate amount of damage, as you can see here as I take 55k damage instantly. And yeah, that's about it. You just gotta heal it up. It's difficult to avoid, and yeah, that's about it. Now the Initiates of Dawn are healers of the group. They do cast Flash Heal, which is interruptible. And yeah, as you can see here, as we make a stupid mistake and pull an additional group, and yeah, that kind of went fairly badly. Now you can be comboed with the stuns and the Blade Feather's dash attack. As you can see here, as I'm just one-shotted. Okay, now this next trash pack involves a mob called the Lowborn Arakoa. And what you have to look out for with these guys is that they will randomly enrage, and when they do, they just start hitting really hard. Now, I'm not quite sure what triggers it, but yeah, you have to really heal up the tank, and yeah, they hit hard, as you can see, as two of our members are just murdered instantly and horribly. Okay, now this first boss is called Ranjit, Master of the Four Winds. Now, this fight is really cool. I mean, this is a really cool fight. Now the first thing this boss will do is he'll cast an ability called Wind Wall. Now what this does is it summons a spinning wall of blades, as you can see here. Now just spin slowly, and yeah, just do a minor amount of damage, just trying to avoid them. But what he will do is he will cast multiple ones at the same time, so the arena can become pretty full of these things, and a bit difficult to avoid. Okay, now the main ability that this boss has is called Four Winds. Now what this does, as you can see here, is it summons 4 lines of spinning blades that rotate along the room very slowly. And they do a fair amount of damage. I think they hit me for about maybe 50 or 80k. And yeah, just trying to avoid them, but it can be a bit difficult with all the other abilities going on at the same time. And you can be comboed very easily. Okay, another ability that this boss has is called Piercing Rush. Now what this does is it's basically similar to the Blade Feathers you fought earlier, except it hits a lot harder and there's a lot more stuff on the screen, so you can't really focus on the boss. As you can see here, as I am just comboed by it fairly quickly. And the final ability that this boss will do is called Fan of Blades. Now this will just summon a spinning blade that goes around the room in a circular motion. It does a fairly low amount of damage, and you can easily avoid it. Now this next set of trash is pretty standard. It's mostly stuff you've seen before, but here is one Dread Raven. Now this mob hits particularly hard, and the way to deal with him properly is just kite him around the boss's platform. Now it should be noted that in the beta that this mob does have a tendency to send you through the floor into your death, which is a little bit unpleasant. The second boss we will be fighting is called Arachnaf, and he is a giant Arakoa construct. Now this fight here is pretty straightforward. The first ability that he will do is called Smash. Now what this will do is it will hit the area below the boss in a small AoE, and it hits for a moderate amount of damage, so don't stand underneath the boss and heal up the tank when needed. Fairly simple. Another ability that the boss will do is called Burst. Now this is an AoE ability that just hits the group for a moderate amount of fire damage. Just heal up afterwards and you should be fine. Now the main and final mechanic of this fight is called Energize. Now the constructs in the side of the room will channel a beam of light towards the boss. What these will do is, if they reach the bosses, they will heal it for 2% of its maximum health every second. Now the way to stop this is a lot like the Neverspite encounter in Karazhan. What you do is you just stand between the boss and the beam. But in doing so, you will suffer 10k damage every second, so try not to do it too often and watch your health. You can be comboed with this and burst, and it can be fairly lethal, so be careful. The next group of trash really has nothing special to it. It's just a bunch of birds. They don't do anything a whole lot special or threatening. Just nuke them down and move on to the boss. I decided to test if it was possible to jump down below to the zone and survive. The short answer? No, it is not. The third boss you will fight in this dungeon is called Rukron. And he is a giant bird, and he just looks awesome. I mean, look at that model, that looks absolutely amazing. The first ability the boss will use is called Pierce Armor. When the boss casts this on himself, his next attack will deal a high amount of physical damage and leave you with a debuff, which causes you to take 10% more damage, and this does stack. Another ability that the boss will cast is called Solar Flare. At the start of the fight, you will see 2 piles of ash on the ground, and when the boss casts this, any piles of ash within 5 yards of him will reanimate into a Solar Flare mob, which will then pursue a target at random. When they reach the target or die, they will explode, dealing 90k fire damage to anyone in 10 yards, and cause any nearby ash piles to also reanimate. Now what we did for this was just kite the birds around and try to avoid having any of them explode. It's a fairly simple mechanic, didn't really cause too many issues. And the final ability that the boss will cast is called Screech. Now what this ability does is if there is no one in melee range of the boss, so if there's no tank on him or any melee DPS attacking him, then the boss will just hit every member of the raid for 10k damage every second, and this increases by 10% for each second that passes on. So basically keep a tank on the boss at all times and you should be good. Now this next part of the dungeon is more of an annoyance than anything. Now what you're going to have to do is try and run up to the other stairs there on the other side, as you can see. But you're gonna have to be doing it very slowly, because as you can see, the wind keeps pushing you back and these stupid birds keep trying to swoop in and damage you, and yeah, it's just a gigantic pain. Seriously, what the fuck is this, Blizzard? Why would you do this to us? But since I'm playing a mage and I like being a cheaty bastard, I found a shortcut around it. So yeah, if you just use blink, you have it glyphed for double blink. It's fairly simple once you get towards the end. The final boss that you will fight in this dungeon is High Sage Virax. Now the first ability that this boss will cast is called Cast Down. Now this is fairly similar to the Valkyrie in the Lich King fight. The boss will summon a Solar Zealot that will slowly carry a random player towards the edge of the balcony, and eventually drop them off it. Now this Solar Zealot needs to be either slowed, stunned, and just nuked down. It's fairly similar to the Lich King mechanic with the Valkyrie. The next ability the boss will cast is called Lens Flare. Now the boss will focus a beam of light on a random player, and that beam will follow them around for a short duration. Now the thing about this beam is that it will leave a puddle of fire on the ground wherever it goes, and anyone standing in that puddle will take 60k fire damage every second. The boss will occasionally summon an Arakoa shield construct, which channels a shielder on the boss that reduces all damage taken by 99%. Basically what you do for this is just nuke down the construct. And the final ability that the boss will cast is called Solar Burst. The boss will cast the spell at a random player, dealing 50k fire damage. You can either interrupt the spell or just heal the damage. And that concludes this guide on the dungeon Skyreach. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment and subscribe. It really helps out the channel more than you can imagine. And I will see you all later.